Welcome to the primary election Pasco School Board virtual candidate forums. We are excited to be here with our candidates for District 3. My name is Amy Marie Granger Welch. I'm from Families for Strong Public Schools. We're a nonpartisan statewide grassroots organization. We are dedicated to supporting and strengthening Florida's public schools. And we work to empower parents, students, educators, and community members with information, resources, and opportunities to engage in the decisions that shape public education. We believe informed voters and engaged communities are essential to strong public schools, and we're proud to partner with the League of Women Voters to help provide this forum so voters can hear directly from the candidates. And Teresa, you're up.
Okay, I'm just going to give a very quick, there we go, important voter information to everybody who's watching this. We want to make sure that everybody knows how important the August 18th primary election is. It is not just a primary for partisan elections. Everyone can vote on August 18th, even those registered no party affiliation. Our school board and judicial candidate races, many of them are decided in the primary. Those are nonpartisan races. And we also sometimes have some universal primary races, which means all voters can vote in those when we have races where both candidates are from one party and it's going to be decided on that day. There aren't any in Pasco on August 18th, but there sometimes are. So just always remember it's important to vote in the primary election. The deadline to register for this election was yesterday, but a lot of people are already registered in the state of Florida. So I want to make sure you know a couple of things. One, even if you didn't vote in the 2024 election and you're marked as an inactive voter, you are still registered and able to vote. If you miss two general elections, you need to register again. But if you didn't vote in 2024, you're still on the voter rolls and you're still able to vote. And you can change your address at any time. There's not a deadline for that. You don't have to do it 29 days before the election. So if you recently moved to Pasco from another county in Florida and you're registered to vote in Florida but haven't switched that to Pasco, you can change your address at any time, including on election day at your precinct. So there's no deadline to changing your address as long as you're already registered somewhere else in Florida. As we know, there's three ways to vote. You can vote by mail, and there is a deadline for requesting your vote by mail ballot. So the deadline is 12 days before the election, which is August 6th for the August 18th election. You can return it three ways. A lot of our Pasco voters have already received theirs. Some are still waiting on it, but it should hit your mailbox any day if you've requested it. So if you haven't received it, you're going to want to reach out and double check because the vote by mail requests do expire after every general election. So they expired after the election in 2024. And I had a question at a forum yesterday, and it was, what do you recommend for returning it? I think it's fine to mail it back as long as you do it early so that it gets back early. Otherwise, the easiest way to do it is to drop it off at any early voting site during early voting. You don't have to wait in line. You can walk past the line, walk right in, and drop it in the box at any early voting site. On election day, you cannot drop off your vote by mail ballot at your precinct, but you can vote in person. So if you have your ballot, or even if you've lost it, you can go to your precinct and vote on election day. You can't turn in that ballot. You'll surrender it when you check in, and then you'll vote in person, just like anytime you vote in person. Early voting in Pasco County is from August 8th to August 15th from 10 to 6. And of course, election day is August 18th. And now we're going to go straight to our candidate forum for Pasco County School Board District 3. And we're going to start by having the candidates introduce themselves, and you'll each get 2 minutes.
So Erin's going to go first.
Great.
Just start talking.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Stroop, and I am one of the candidates for School Board District 3. I am born and raised in Pasco County. I went through the public school system, graduated from Mitchell High School. I have a master's degree in communications from Florida State University. And before I had the privilege to stay home and raise my 3 daughters, I built a career in communications. I worked on the communications team for the governor of Florida. And when my husband's job moved us to California, I worked at Yahoo Small small business out in Silicon Valley. And I've also spent the past year as a VPK teacher. So I have a very diverse background, both from the business perspective and as an educator. But most importantly, I'm running to bring a strong parent perspective to Pasco County School Board. Several years ago, I got involved in some issues related to my children's school. I went to many school board meetings, many county commission meetings, and it was there that I really learned that you don't know what you don't know. So moving forward, what I hope to bring to the school board is a positive parent perspective and someone who is willing and has the ability to stand up for the students, the teachers, the families, and the community, and also with the integrity to go to Tallahassee and to lobby for the issues that are important to Pasco County schools and to public schools. As we look forward at with some budgetary restrictions and challenges that are not necessarily new to public schools. We need school board members who have strong relationships and who can utilize those relationships to lobby and support what is best for the students of Pasco County. So I look forward to sharing more with you and Erin Stroop on August 18th in the primaries for District 3.
Thank you. All right, Sean, you're up.
Hi, my name is Sean O'Flannery. I'm a dedicated educator, a devoted father, and a proud military veteran. With over 29 years of experience in public education, currently I serve as a high school teacher and I teach civics and personal finance. I champion a back-to-basics approach that prioritizes analog learning tools such as physical books, papers, and pencils. And I try to foster genuine engagement and critical thinking without the dependence of computer technology. Beyond the classroom, I have extensive background in athletics, including 15 years as a high school volleyball coach, during which time I was inducted into the High School Hall of Fame as that coach. The last 10 years, I've been a youth ice hockey coach. But my commitment to my community is further reflected as my service as a veteran of the United States Marine Corps Reserves and as an officer in the Florida Army National Guard. I am a proud parent of 4 children, Reagan, Charlie, Lexi, and Jonathan. Jonathan's at University of Central Florida. Lexi just graduated from high school. She's going to go off in the fall to Florida Atlantic, where I'm very proud that she is going to major in education. I don't know why sometimes, but that's the route that she's looking at. And Charlie and Reagan, Charlotte, and we call her Charlie, they are still in the school system. And when I graduate, when Charlie graduates and when I get done with my first term in office, Reagan will still be in school. So I'm a dedicated parent that wants to make sure that my kids have the opportunity to pursue things within their school and their activities, and it's a constant source of pride. I'm a resident of the Trinity area, District 3. Please remember that you can vote in the entire Pasco County area. So even if it says that you live in a different school district, you can vote at large for this race. So I look forward to talking more about the questions, and I hope that I can get your vote during this period of time, whether it's early voting or on August 18th. Thank you.
Now you guys heard it, so hopefully. Kirk, you're up.
That was good. Perfect timing. Good afternoon. I am Dr. Kirk Phillips. My doctorate is in education, in leadership and organizational innovation. I just completed that doctorate degree in May of 2025 at the age of 58. I have 4 degree programs: law enforcement, management, computer systems, and education. That's interdisciplinary education. I served in the United States Air Force for 20 years, retired in 2007. I am a known and awarded leader and innovator in education and human resources, transformational leadership. Some of those awards are like the Arthur S. Fleming Award. I am the first non-pilot to earn that award out of the Pentagon at the Air Force level. That was for innovation and leadership, transforming the Air Force's education system into a virtual system in 2005, which proved to be remarkable when COVID hit. And the United States Air Force and other Department of Defense agencies were able to continue on with education, and no child was left behind. After retiring from the Air Force, I went to Lockheed Martin. I was the program manager, what's called the checkpoint of the future. What you see at the airports today with the modern technologies and innovations on getting people through the lines was a lot of my work. I was on that team. And then I went to Accenture, which is a huge consulting firm where you advise large customers, such as school boards or counties or states for that matter, on innovations on improving their processes and efficiencies. And then I founded TKG International, which is an innovation firm where I consulted small businesses on innovation to increase their bottom line and provide better services to their customers. And I mothballed that in 2001 after COVID. And then I went to Citibank at the request of the CEO to help with cognitive artificial intelligence. And I just saw Congressman Gus Bilirakis was out there yesterday in Brandon, Florida. The team.
Pollyanna, you're going to round us out.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about myself and why I'm running and what I hope to accomplish. I am Mollyana Ward, and I am running for Pasco County School Board District 3. I believe that I am the most uniquely qualified candidate in this race. I am a parent. I am a grandparent. I am a former educator. I have been a lifetime advocate for children and families, and I am a business leader. I have some very clear priorities when I'm elected. The first thing I'd like to accomplish is to build on the good work that Pasco County schools, their administrators, their teachers, and of course, the board and the superintendent have accomplished, and that is to become, to be on track to be an A-rated school district. We've seen some real progress in student outcomes. That A rating is the first time in 22 years. So that's really important, and great job to the teachers. The graduation rate is moving in the right direction too. I'd like to see students, though, also graduate with real career opportunities, not just college as the one choice, but also apprenticeship programs. And I do have cats, by the way, if you hear them. I apologize for that. I'm home today. Yeah, so sorry, I've lost my place. But as far as apprenticeships and everything goes, yes, that's very important to me as well. In addition, I think it's really important to go back to the core of academics, reading, writing, arithmetic. I'm big on putting more paper back in the classroom and less screens, especially in those early childhood education years. My background is in early childhood education, so I'm very strong in that area as well. I want to pay teachers what they're worth. A referendum is simply a Band-Aid, but it is certainly not a solution. We need to dig into the budget, and we need to find those dollars because teachers deserve to be paid a livable wage. And I'll leave it there. Mollyana Ward for Pasco County School Board District 3.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to move into the questions. We're going to rotate. Sean, you're going to go first. I'm happy to reread anything. So don't be afraid to ask. We'll start your timer for 1 minute as soon as you start talking. So please don't feel like you can't ask because some of the questions have like a little precursor to it. So just so it explains what the question's about for people that might not know. So Sean, you're first. Here's the first question. As you know, the Florida Constitution legally binds the state to make adequate provision for a uniform, efficient, safe, secure, and high-quality system of free public schools. What is the role of the school board in ensuring this, and where do you think Pasco County schools do this well, and where is there room for improvement?
So that's a great, challenging question because by state law, we're already tied to what we can do with our tax dollars. With that aspect of it, I do understand the troubles that we've had. We had a constitutional amendment that went through, and now school districts are saying we don't have the money to cover the class size amendments that are taking place. But I'm not hearing enough coming from Tallahassee as to how are they going to fix this. The voters have spoken. It's now part of the state constitution. I'm hoping that if I get elected, I'm going to be taking an oath to the state constitution as well as the United States Constitution to make sure that I fulfill that aspect of it. So my goal as a school board member is going to be dealing with lobbying up in Tallahassee so that we can try to get that funding for these individual students. And I am not opposed to this district, and I've seen it before as an educator, school districts suing the state. So if they're not willing to come forward, I don't have a problem with shaking hands and talking to a lot of these legislators. I'm friends with a lot of them along the areas. I've had several of them come in and give. Oh, my minute's up. Sorry, I didn't see a timer. The timer didn't come up.
It should be up on Teresa's.
on my square as well as in the top corner.
I don't see it on my screen. I'm at full screen.
It's only on when it's on. So
Yeah, you'll see it
okay,
when
it
the
will.
next person speaks.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
If you look
Thanks.
at Teresa's screen, you should see it because she's running the timer. Kirk, you're next. Would you like me to reread? Yeah. Okay. As you know, the Florida Constitution legally binds the state to make adequate provision for a uniform, efficient, safe, secure, and high quality system of free public schools. What is the role of the school board in ensuring this? And where do you think Pasco County schools do this well? And where is there room for improvement?
Well, I'm going to piggyback on some things that Sean said. I do believe having good relationships with your legislatures is important. Um, Let me tell you what Pasco County does very, very well and why it's moving toward an A rating. That is, it maintains great relationships with all the profits and service providers around, like Rotary and other groups. There is not one child that I'm aware of. If they need something, a service group is going to get them what they need. And that helps with the budget. And I hear this from the commissioners a lot. So I think that's one thing we're doing right. Where we can improve on it is prioritization. We have to prioritize things and focus it, like in the military, on a mission. And like Dr. Legg said last night at the Hispanic Club, we have to get rid of the distractions around us and stay focused on the mission. Our mission is to make sure every child gets the best education to that child's capability and capacity so they can operate and seize opportunities when they graduate at their level. I do not believe in graduation rates or the A rating school. I believe in each child prepared to succeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mollyana, you're up.
Please repeat the question.
Absolutely. As you know, the Florida Constitution legally binds the state to make adequate provision for a uniform, efficient, safe, secure, and high quality system of free public schools. What is the role of the school board in ensuring this? And where do you think Pasco County schools do this well? And where is there room for improvement?
Well, from my own experience, my boys all graduated from Pasco County public high schools in 13, 17, and 19. So since that time, I definitely see an improvement, but with everything, there's always room to grow. I would suggest, as has been mentioned, building community partnerships. My experience in business is one where, bringing these community groups together who all share the same common goal of having great outcomes for our students, and therefore unifying with us to do programming where it's not costing taxpayers money. I think that's one way. As mentioned, being able to be a voice in Tallahassee. I'm no stranger to Tallahassee. I've spent a lot of time there lobbying on behalf of Florida realtors and things that are important to homeowners here in our state. So that's definitely not unfamiliar territory for me as well. And I've only got a couple seconds left, but thank you.
No problem. Aaron, you are up.
Okay, great. You don't need to repeat the question.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think, the job of the school board is to ensure that our public schools remain competitive. And part of that, I know this is repetitive, but is going to Tallahassee and ensuring that we are doing absolutely everything that we can and making sure that our voices and specific issues related to Pasco County are voiced at the state level to try and improve the per student funding for public schools. Being from here, I've watched the county grow leaps and bounds. And while we have made drastic improvements, and while we certainly should be celebrating the A that the district does now have, I do think there are things in the day-to-day that we can do to improve, to encourage families to stay and utilize the strong public schools that we have, and rather than seeking a private school or charter school or homeschool options elsewhere, which ultimately brings funding elsewhere as well. You don't know what you don't know. And I think we could do a better job of communicating with families and community members and really learning the specifics of why families might leave, to encourage them to either come back or to stay.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Question number 2. Kirk, you're first. How should districts address disparities in resources or opportunities between schools?
That's a very interesting question. And again, I heard Dr. Legg speak about it last night, that the east side is growing so rapidly, and the district that we're in, District 3, is decreasing exponentially. I also speak about Mitchell High School and Sundre, how one's an A rated school and others failing 2 miles apart. How can that be? It's very easy. Policies don't have to be across the board countywide. Policies can be directed towards schools where those disparities exist. Resources can be diverted to those where those disparities exist. So we have to target some policies and not think there's a one size fits all policy for everything. And that's the best way to address disparities across these schools. I don't know how we will never resolve or solve how many kids are in a school or not. That's birth rates and a variety of other factors. But with the resources we have, we need to figure out how to best use them. And typically that's through shared services, which I don't hear spoken about very much, and just focusing on the mission. And that's educating every child on an individual basis.
Yeah. Mollyana.
Do you mind repeating the question?
No problem. How should districts address disparities in resources or opportunities between schools?
So as mentioned, the west side of the county has reduced enrollment, whereas the east side of the county has increased enrollment. And there's a variety of factors of why that is. But our job is to make sure that students on both sides of the county are that their needs are being met. So as a mom of 3 sons, what I can tell you is when they were growing up, if one needed sneakers and the other two did not need sneakers, they didn't all three get sneakers. The one who needs them got the sneakers. And that's really applicable to a county as well. There is no reason why we can't have shared resources for sure, but also make sure that depending on, what the school's needs are, that we're meeting that particular school's needs. And I think the community believes that and would agree with that. I think teachers see that firsthand. Especially the ones that are dealing in those lower socioeconomic areas, they're pressed to use some of their own resources to meet those needs. So we need to do that for them.
Thank you. Erin.
Hi. Yeah, so my answer really isn't all that much different from what we've been hearing, but I will say, like they've been saying, and even in District 3, we have some of the highest performing schools and we have some of the lower performing schools. So countywide, yes, there are great disparities, but even within District 3, very large disparities. And what I think we can do is educate the communities that are the higher performing, that have less needs, why resources need to go elsewhere. I think transparency and communication can go a long way. 2 years ago now, when the bad hurricanes came through, I was able to organize with a group of families in Starkey Ranch a drive for supplies for families out in West Zephyr Hills, because I contacted the school board and we said, where are we hurting? Because in Starkey Ranch, we're not. What can our community that has more than enough at this time do to help another? So I think involving community partners and communicating when we have to allocate resources somewhere and not the other would help leaps and bounds.
Thank you. Sean. Sean's done. Yeah, okay.
I'm right here.
Okay.
So one of the areas that I don't necessarily agree upon is a top-down approach. I don't think we need to necessarily hear from the district going down to try to find and solve these problems. One of the things I would like to see is principals stay in their position much longer than 3 to 4 years and then shuffle to a different location. I like to see that they'll have the ability to work through this kind of a program and that they can see what needs are met at their schools and how the West Side can be promoted. I know we have some different full-time CTE schools, but I believe that at Anclote, they do have, if I remember correctly, a mechanical program, but I don't understand why we can't institute small engine repair for a marine program. They're right on the water. That whole school is completely surrounded by water. And to sit there and try to teach these young folks, they're going to be able to go right out the street and be able to find a job, no problem, for small engines. And I don't know about you, but last time I had a boat, I spent a lot of money on repairs.
Thank
you. Thank you.
All right. Mollyana, you're up first this time. How should districts address concerns about teacher recruitment and retention in Florida?
Wow. Well, this is definitely the hot topic. I was actually calculating what a teacher earns and what their cost was for a family insurance policy and how much they'd paid in taxes. And I was shocked at how little they actually get to walk away with and how that's even possible to take care of a family. So that's a huge reality. I've been in the housing business for a long time too, so I see how important it is to live close to where you work so that your quality of life is better, and then also to be able to make that living wage so that you can afford just to have a roof over your head and take care of those needs. So we have to do a better job. I can't speak on the budget. I've not had an opportunity to sit there and review and scrub through it. But obviously, that's the first place that we have to look for the funds. And the second place would be those community partnerships that we've talked about as well. I think there's ways to maybe provide bonuses and some incentives for teachers through some of those additional partnerships.
Thank you. Erin, you are next.
Yes. So while obviously compensation is of the utmost importance, right? Like we've said this before, and I could say it 100 times, lobbying for higher per student funding at the state level so that we can offer our teachers more, and looking at the budget and identifying redundancies, doing everything we can to offer our teachers more. But at the same time, I think we also need to look at the day-to-day things that land on teachers' desks and find a way to mitigate some of those extra responsibilities that ultimately end up in a teacher's lap. I applaud the district for positive initiatives that come from them, but oftentimes they end up the responsibility of a teacher. That along with other distractions in the classroom, like student behavior, for example, that create disruptions and that cause teachers the inability to really focus on instruction. So I think those combined with higher compensation would speak volumes to keeping teachers and attracting more. Word of mouth goes a long way. So if we can do better, thank you.
Thank you. Sean, you are next.
As a teacher, I reluctantly left Pasco County schools to go to Hillsborough County schools to make $20,000 more to just drive a little bit south. So I'm the poster child of veteran teachers leaving. I didn't want to leave. And I do believe that we do need to find more money. First off, I would like to refocus and try to figure out where all certified teachers that are out of the classroom, what is their job? What do they do? What is the importance? And do we need that job? That's the first area that I'm going to be asking about. The other aspect of lobbying and trying to work with our legislators is trying to eliminate all the testing. 60 plus days of testing. We have to hire a testing coordinator, which is a certified teacher. Again, we can eliminate those positions. We can then have those teachers either return back to the classroom or we can try to figure out what to do with that money. And the other item is one lesson plan. I don't need 3 lesson plans to get burnt out. These principals are just, oh, Sean, you're so good. How about this extra lesson plan?
Thank you. Kirk, you are up next.
Okay, read the question again, please. Charlie was barking. Like Molly has cats. I have a little dog.
No worries. How should districts address concerns about teacher recruitment and retention in Florida?
Yeah, so this is a fantastic question. So it's about recruiting and retention, and that's human resource transformation, my specialty. These awards I was talking about, the General Dixon Award and other things. Let me put it this way. I'll give you an example. The United States Congress said you will implement a pay performance system for federal senior executive services across the federal government, and no one could do it. But here was innovative Kirk sitting over there in the Pentagon, and I did it. It's a whole compensation package. And I always compare it to the military because my military pay is that very similar to teacher pay, but the whole package. Retention and recruiting has a whole bunch of factors, mostly culture. One, we need to implement a leadership development program within the school system for everyone, and there are only 4,000 teachers. Number two, we have to rotate leaders out every 3 years, like the military, to prevent complacency and a variety of other things. So it's a whole package, not just pay. Let's go to 20-year retirement. Think about that as part of it. 30 days off instead of 2 weeks or 10 days. Thank you.
All right, Erin, you are up first. Florida's Schools of Hope law can allow certain charter schools to operate in unused rooms on a public school campus while limiting how much authority local school boards have over certain school facility decisions. If a public school in your district were affected by a Schools of Hope proposal, how would you work to protect students, support the school community, and ensure families are informed throughout the process? big question.
Yeah. So I believe transparency is the utmost importance. You know, a school board member is put in place by voters, by the communities. And if one of our schools was in a situation where Schools of Hope were trying to come in and utilize the space, we need to inform everyone as quickly as possible with as many facts as possible, right? The last thing you want to do is instill panic in a community, but at the same time, there's a way to do it where you can keep the community members informed of the process and what that process looks like, while also offering facts, right? So this is coming from the state, right? So these are the facts, these are the details, this is the timeline, this is what it would look like, and this is what we are doing to try to mitigate that so that we can protect our public schools. This all comes down to me, like I said, transparency. I could say it 15 times. As a parent of young children, my daughters are 4, 6, and 8. This is something I would want to know about as soon as possible. Again, not to instill panic, but to be transparent.
Thank you. Sean, you are next.
I don't believe that we should share schools. I think that will become a logistic nightmare if we have two different entrances, two different ideas of where some students are going to go through and check in, check out. So I know that happened around Miami, Palm Beach, and the legislators are re-looking at how they're going to clean up this law. But if we ever had to close a school, we had an open facility that was available, I would be able to support that if the building was not old and it didn't need a lot of maintenance, of trying to find a charter school to take that space over. So I don't have a problem with the buildings being used, but I don't think that it should be used at the same time as a public school, because again, I think you're going to have an issue of where do they check in, where do they park, where's the security at, and so that aspect of it, I don't support.
Thank you. Kirk, you're up.
Yeah, I'd absolutely disagree with that. Let's go back to shared services. Let's go back to segregation. It's okay to have different organizations with similar services sharing facilities, as long as they're sharing the cost and services. Why can't public schools share their space if they have space? Dr. Legg spoke last night out east how we're so overcrowded, we need space. Okay, do any charter schools or private schools have space we can use? It also creates more innovation and competitiveness. That creates better success. I'm all for it's called enterprise. You're going to hear the two top governor candidates talking about enterprise school services. So if the space is there, let them use it, but they can pay for it. And you don't have separate entrances. You want inclusion. You want these kids interacting with each other, learning from each other. And you never know, maybe the public school has the best offering and they want to come to our math class or our science class, our civics class, get the little tassel when they graduate. So we have an opportunity to set an example and show that public school can be the choice over charter or other. Thank you.
Marliana, you're up. Oh, you're muted.
There we go.
No worries.
I don't know enough about the pros and cons of a charter school sharing the space within the school. On the surface, I don't see an issue. As someone who looks for opportunities to generate revenue in my business, I have an office space in Wesley Chapel and I rent out offices in order to keep my overhead low. So it makes sense on the surface, but I'd like to explore that further. As far as utilizing buildings, maybe, for example, that are being underutilized, again, with the career and technical education, there are opportunities for students to learn small engine repair, as mentioned, for boats, but also we have a shortage of jet engine repairs in our country. We have a shortage of diesel mechanics, welders, electricians, plumbers. So maybe, I know Junior Achievement is a brand or a program specifically, but maybe something like the Junior Achievement programs can take the place of some of those underutilized schools.
Thank you. All right. Sean, you're up first on this next question. How would you prioritize spending decisions during tight budget years?
Looking for the classroom, looking for the teachers. That's going to be the aspect of taking a look at the budget. And that's going to be the area that I'm going to look at. What's best for the children, and how can we try to deal with it? If there is the item that we have to cut, if it becomes a 2008 kind of financial crisis, then that's where we're going to have to try to, again, look at all the different resources that we can combine. And that's usually when you will see a lot of these professional teachers that are doing different jobs outside of the classroom. Those positions will normally get eliminated. One of the areas that got eliminated was driver's education, and I would like to bring back behind the wheel driver's education because I believe that it would be beneficial to try to reduce the amount of deaths in young people. But overall, with the budget, it's going to you're going to have to make tough decisions, and that might mean eliminating some of the different positions. I know Pinellas County is dealing with that, and some of my friends that I used to work with are telling me about it right now.
Thank you. Kirk, you are next.
Yeah, so think about it this way. Pasco County is in the good time, the golden age. So in the Pentagon, when there's a significant event, we go to critical mission personnel only. During the hurricanes, what did the county and the school do? Mission essential only. That tells you who you really need and who you really don't. First of all, safety gets funded first. Teachers' compensation package gets funded second. Everything else supports that. And maybe we don't have to cut anything. We use them in different roles across the county if they're needed. There are lots of things we can do. We have to start asking ourselves, do we really need to be building out $100 million in infrastructure out in the West? Why can't we lease a facility? Maybe we have to look at construction costs. Half our budget is for education. The other half is for some cost, building things and stuff to that effect. We need to pay attention to that priority and bring those funds back to what's most important. And that's teachers and student learning. Everything else, I'm not going to say get rid of it, but we can definitely find efficiencies to reduce a lot of it. Thank you.
Maliana.
I was waiting for the music to finish. So again, as someone, I've served on multiple boards, and one of our responsibilities on our boards have been to balance the budget, and that includes always having a reserve in that budget as well. And I think it's hypercritical to have funding for the boom and the bust of our cycle. That's number one. Number two is to really hone in onto the spending. What are we spending our money on? And yes, half of what we spend goes to teachers, and rightfully so. But where does the rest go? Are there ways that we can reduce some of those costs in anticipation? And then also, as someone who negotiates for a living, I'm always looking for the best deals, right? So why aren't we looking, or maybe we are, so I don't want to say that we're not, but let's do a better job of looking for those best deals when it comes to partnering with outside vendors. We shouldn't be paying top dollar. We should be, again, finding the most economical path towards the needs of the school system. Thank you.
Erin, you are up.
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, the budget needs to be looked at with a very fine-tooth comb when it comes to finding things that need to be cut, and look at what does not point towards student success. Are there redundancies that can be reduced? What can we do to ensure that, first of all, the teachers are not affected at all, but that programs that really contribute to student success aren't also affected? We talked a lot about, there's the boom and the bust and having those reserves, but is the reserves that we have, is that going to be enough? We're facing decline in enrollment, which is taking money off the top of our budget. So what can we do to be proactive, looking long-term, looking at the 10-year plan, so that 10 years from now, we're not doing the same things over and over and over again? Because a budget crisis, maybe not crisis, but dealing with a challenging budget at a Pasco school district, this is nothing new. This happens all the time. So what can we do looking forward to ensure that we're not having these same conversations?
Thank you. Kirk, you're first on this next one. What is your vision for the future of public education in Florida as education options continue to expand?
Well, my vision's easy. I've been saying it since October. Public education should be the choice. When you're out here talking, when you say choice, that means someone other than public education. Remember, I told you I was selected to come in and lead and transform? The first thing I do as a leader is set a culture and a vision of we're going to be the best, not the top 10, not number 2. We're going to be the best education system there is. We should be the choice. The best way to do it is set a vision and a culture of empowerment. Teachers don't feel empowered right now. At least the ones I speak to don't. Get out of their way, let them be empowered, let them adjust curriculum, let them work with the students, let them talk to kids, and let's lead, not follow. We can become the #1 public school system in the state of Florida. I'm confident in it. With Dr. Legg's legislative prowess and my leadership and innovation experience, we can easily go to #1 much quicker, and we have to. Innovations are being adopted 2.3 times faster than any time in history. I know. I did the research. Students, teachers, administrative staff, and the administrators. I know how it's being adopted. We got to move faster.
Okay. Mollyana?
Do you mind repeating the question? I apologize.
No problem. What is your vision for the future of public education in Florida as education options continue to expand?
So I like to think of myself as that girl or that student who didn't have a clear path. And so I'm very passionate about our students graduating with a path. I think that and I ended up actually going back to school and getting my GED and college in my 30s. But that has to be our priority. My philosophy about raising children is that we're not raising children, we're raising adults. And these are our future leaders, our future innovators. They're going to be taking care of us one day. So it really starts with a solid education, which goes back to the fundamentals of learning, reading, writing, and arithmetic. When a child is confident about their abilities, the whole world opens up for them. When they're able to think critically for themselves, they can have, they'll have discernment throughout their entire life, which leads to wisdom. And I think that's the foundation. And then moving forward, I know I talk a lot about a career in technical education. As a mom of 3 sons and 2 bonus sons, I see the desperate need that we have in our nation for these skills.
Okay. Erin, you are.
Yeah, just repeat the question one more time. I want to make sure I answer it.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your vision for the future of public education in Florida as education options continue to expand?
Yeah. So I'll start by saying, the educational landscape now, not just in Pasco, but, across the state and across the country has changed drastically. My children are 4, 6, and 8, and I went through the process of looking at private schools last year for my second child. And I've said this before, you don't know what you don't know. And so my vision for our public school system moving forward is that we are the best choice because there's a lot that you don't know. You may assume that this private school is the best option for your child, but until you go there and you see it for yourself and you see that there's actually 28 kids in that class, whereas in the public school, there's only 21. All that being said, my vision for public schools, especially in Pasco County, having gone through them myself, is for them to be the obvious #1 choice and for us to continue to do the work to get the communications out about how great our schools are and continue to improve upon. Yeah, we're an A-rated school district now, but we have to maintain that and we have to make sure that everybody understands why we're an A.
Thank you. Sean.
I believe that as a overall public education, we need to do better. We need to do better overall, but we need to do better by stopping, again, this top-down mentality that we have. Why can't we have a public school? They're building new schools. Why do they all have to follow the same traditional area? Why can't we have a school that has 4 days, a 4-day school week? They are so successful in Texas, but nope, the contract says we have to work 5 days. This is how we break up the whole idea of this area and do a better job. We've got to make sure that we also communicate with the parents. So often parents don't know the different programs that are being offered all over the place that we have already. And we also need to go back into working and promoting our traditional paths that have been successful. The athletics programs, the band teachers, the fine arts programs. We don't take care of these folks enough, and then they leave, and then they come, and then we have a hole in that area. So I really would like to increase supplements to make that better.
Thank you. Next up, Mollyana, you're going to go first on this one. What role should school boards play in advocating for state funding or legislative changes? Oh, where'd she go?
Did she get kicked off?
I think she accidentally got kicked off.
Okay.
She should join right back.
Start somewhere else.
All right, Aaron, you
Could you
can
repeat the
reread it if you
question?
want.
Sorry.
Yeah. What role should school boards play in advocating for state funding or legislative changes?
Yeah, great question. And, I think this is something that we have touched on, in our conversations. We need to have a strong presence in Tallahassee, lobbying and advocating for the things that our district needs. And I don't just mean going, once or twice a year. I think as issues come up, we need to have representation continuously going. And I think it's the job of a school board member to hold our paid lobbyists and our paid professionals accountable. Are they doing their job? Are they going out there and really doing the best that they can to lobby for us for increased funding for our teachers? I think we all know, if you've paid attention to the legislative process, nothing happens quickly. It's always a long, drawn out process, but the more that we can continue to be strong and to communicate to the community as well and gather as many community supporters and members to come with us as well, I think would really help exponentially.
Thank you. Let's see, I saw her pop back in here, but
Yeah.
all right, if she wants to. Do you want me to reread the question?
I lost you in the middle of Sean. My internet went out, so I'm on my phone.
No worries, no worries. What role should school boards play in advocating for state funding or legislative changes?
So fun level, but as mentioned before, I think it's crucial that we advocate and we are a voice for our teachers and our school system here in Pasco County. So yeah, very important. And as mentioned earlier as well, our role is really to figure out ways that, whatever our needs are in certain parts of the county, that we can meet those needs. And if that needs level, then that's where we need to go. And I do have those relationships as well. In fact, we don't talk a lot about endorsements. Endorsements don't win races. I totally realize that, but I do have those relationships. You can just look at my track record, and that's from years of not being a politician, but just developing community relationships, which I think are crucial on every level. Thank you.
Sean, you're next.
Yes, working within Tallahassee, working with everybody, I think is very important. My first number one goal that I would be working on is dealing with testing. Again, I believe that we overtest. We spend too much money on testing. We have a bunch of unfunded mandates that we have to deal with to try to deal with that. But before I would go to Tallahassee and ask for money, I would make sure that we had a reason why we were asking for this money. Why do we need this additional funding? You just can't sit there and say, we need more. Well, would this fix the problem? I don't know, but we want more. No, you can't do that. You need to be able to sit there and explain to legislators why you need the money, what is it going to be used for, and then that way the legislators can buy into it. We have a lot of fiscal responsible Republicans, and we have a new governor coming in that will have a line item veto, and we need to be able to explain to them why Pasco County needs additional funding. Is it CTE? Is it this aspect? And how is it going to be paid for and maintained?
Thank you. Kirk.
You specifically had said state funding, not federal, right? Just state.
Yeah. What role should school boards play in advocating for state funding or legislative changes?
Okay. I hope I get my 10 seconds back over there, Miss Potter.
I paused it.
Okay. So this isn't not an easy answer. First of all, it doesn't happen with one school board. It happens with school boards around the entire state. We're talking about legislation. There's the formal process where we have our legislative delegation. We tell them our requirements, a whole 9 yards. But here's how it really works. Our legislatures get, like I serve on the medical legislative advisory group. I serve on veterans groups. I do deep research, which that's what doctors do. And I present a business case. And then I go around the state and I find other counties with the same problem. And I build a coalition. And then we present it to the legislatures. And then the legislature staff presents executive summaries, et cetera, to vote on. So you have to go out and have your politically savvy skills to figure out how to change legislation. And that has to happen. The reason why charter schools have so much more leverage is they don't have to follow the same regulations and legislation that public schools do. We need to deregulate public schools, and the best way to do it is work with other school boards and build a coalition and advocate for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Erin, you are first this time around. What principles would guide your communication with the public regarding school district referendum measures, and how would you ensure voters have the information they need to make informed decisions?
I love this question. My background is in communications, and as I've said before, transparency is key. With regards to the referendum, we've had a lot of conversations. I've had a lot of conversations with community members, and a lot of people really don't have a full understanding of what this is. There's confusion that it's a new tax. They confuse the difference between the referendum and the pennies for Pasco. And I think the best way to go about this is to be transparent and use layman terms. Explain things in ways that your normal everyday person, your normal everyday family will be able to understand, so that they are educated and they can go to their ballot and make the vote that is going to be most beneficial to them as a family. As a school board member, I would like to have open office hours where I make myself available to answer these kinds of questions and to explain things in layman's terms and be as transparent as possible. I think that's something we haven't seen in a while, especially with something as important as a referendum. We need to be out there in the community speaking about it, giving the facts as much.
Thank you. Sean, you are next.
Could you repeat the question, please? Just make sure I got it.
Absolutely. Yeah. What principles would guide your communication with the public regarding school district referendum measures, and how would you ensure voters have the information they need to make informed decisions?
If the school board decided to go forward with an item, I would definitely advocate that all the school board members would hopefully go out publicly to try to talk to different civic groups so that they could explain it directly to the public. And like Erin was saying, we could then talk to these people individually so that we could try to make sure that folks do understand it. I would not support any public money on signs. I do not believe that a dollar that should go to a classroom should go to a yard sign to promote a program that's out there. And I would also try to start early as possible so that we could try to get that communication to the folks overall. And a lot of times schools do have town hall meetings where they will use the school. There's nothing wrong with that. You've got the custodians, you just open up the doors and turn on the lights. And then you have the town halls that they can come in, and then they can, again, you could have school board members, district employees, principals that can help to explain what the measure is that you are promoting.
Thank you. Kirk, you are next.
Smiling, Erin. You're making me smile.
The music.
It is the music. Well, you have to repeat the question again, please.
Okay. All right. What principles would guide your communication with the public regarding school district referendum measures, and how would you ensure voters have the information they need to make informed decisions?
What principles? Obviously, this is a change management construct. So like Erin said, you have to have open communications, dialogue. And I love what Sean said about the civic groups. Believe it or not, we have more conversations in our civic groups, not necessarily about policy, but just relationships. I also agree that just posting something doesn't mean anything. So we do right now, it's called a pull strategy. We make a decision, we stick it out there, and we expect people to come to us. We have to have a push strategy. That means we are constantly pushing information out to the key stakeholders to make sure they're aware of it. And we make it public and transparent, exactly what Erin said about transparency. And the more people feel like that they get to communicate or comment on it, even if you don't use those comments, they feel like they're being heard. So you have to put it out there and just let people comment and think about it. And then you conduct a thematic analysis and find out what the real issues are, and you make your policy decisions based on that. But I mean, overall, it's the same thing. All of us are saying the same thing: open communication.
Thank you. Mariana.
So I just want to give credit to Dr. Tony Zeschi. She has been a tremendous hire for Pasco County. She is, I don't know the exact job title, but she directs the communications for the county. So I definitely think that bringing her in was a great asset And I believe that the strategy, since this is not on the August ballot on the primary, I believe that the strategy will be to push maybe by direct mail, but also as they approach the November 3rd election. So if people haven't seen a lot out there now, I think they're making best use of the money that's been allocated to send the messaging by strategically doing it at a time that's most appropriate. No one's really paying attention to a lot of these things over the summer, unfortunately for us. But especially as people start to think about going back to school, that's really going to be the time to push that messaging.
Thank you. All right, Sean, you're going first on this one. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. What is your
Quick question.
understanding of? Yes, absolutely.
Sorry.
Two more
How
questions.
many questions are we having?
You have two more questions, and then I think a minute. Are we doing a minute at the end to just any
Close?
comments that
Okay.
we haven't covered that you'd like to
Thank you.
share? Cool. All right. What is your understanding of the school district's procurement process, and what approach would you take to identify potential cost savings without compromising educational quality or student services?
That's a good one. That's again going into the whole idea of the purchasing and the different guidelines. I would assume that that's one area is education that I haven't dealt with other than when I was on the textbook committee with picking our textbook company. But I would think that the overall item is what is the specifications that we would need for whatever it is that we need to be able to acquire, and then take it from that aspect of it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Kirk, you're next.
Yeah, this is actually an easy question. I taught government procurement for about 15 years with TKG International. So it's very simple. It depends on if you're buying a pencil or building a $100 million building. And it also depends on the risk of the product. So there's low cost, technically acceptable. You can buy a pencil. And then there's complex, like building a complex building that has a lot of requirements. Fundamentally, they're all the same. You put out a request for information and you want to try to find a minimum of at least 3 vendors. 3 vendors come back, you review them, you rate them, you buy your product. Fundamentally, that's just how the procurement process works. Here's where it's broken. We need an IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. We need to go out and define a list of high qualified vendors to make the process of acquiring something easier. If a teacher needs pencils, he or she should be able to reach out and buy them. So we need to integrate all those contracts and gain efficiencies and go to an IDIQ construct for acquiring basic products and services. Thank you.
Thank you. Mollyana?
Dr. Phillips used a lot of technical terms that I'm unfamiliar with, but it sounds great, Dr. Phillips. And I'm going to agree with, in layman's terms, what looking at 3 different vendors, always getting 3 quotes, and then choosing the best one. It seems like a common sense approach. I don't know strategically how it's done in the county at this time. But when I've heard others speak about, for example, for the government to build a sidewalk is 3 times more than if I wanted to build a sidewalk. I don't know why that is. I'd like to find out why that is, and I'd like to break that down and always just find the best deal. And I think the purchasing process always needs to be reviewed as well. It should be simple. As he mentioned, teachers should be able to purchase things through this for the classroom through that process rather than from their own pockets. That's just done far too much. And at the end of the day, student outcomes are the main thing. So we need to focus on keeping those solid.
Yeah. Erin?
Yeah, like Mariana said, at the end of the day, as we need to ensure that our schools and our students and our teachers, our athletic coaches have the resources they need to be successful at the end of the day, no matter what their specific focus is. For the procurement process, I would need to take a close look, because I've heard in conversations at school board meetings that, we're really not doing the best that we can with regards to efficiency, right? We're spending something like $7 or something on a tennis ball. Is that true? That was hearsay. I haven't seen that in writing, so I don't know if that's just anecdote or what. But if the process is not resulting in the most efficient quality products for our students and teachers, then it needs to be given a second look. We need to be as efficient as we can. We also need to make sure that our teachers and coaches are given quality product. But if there's something wrong in our process where we're paying $7 for a tennis ball, then it needs to happen.
Thank you. All right. We have a Pasco specific question here. Kirk, you're going to go first. Some Pasco schools are overcrowded while others have fewer students and may face closure or consolidation. How do student enrollment, staffing, and class size affect these decisions? And what would guide your approach to planning for the future of the district?
Yeah, this is what we call surge, desurge, and capacity planning. And we're going to see this trend to continue. We're going to see less in the west side of the county, more in the east side. We have to go back and look at different models of, we're talking about, think about it, butts and seats, building an airplane, the logistics of that, how do they do it? We can benchmark off commercial industry and figure out we can't move children around because it's where families live and move. We do have to roll up schools to K through 8. I firmly believe that. And maybe you roll up a school to an entire complex because that's how society operates. Those are business decisions that have to be made based off the economics of the situation. We can't spend $100 million on a school with 10 kids. That just doesn't make sense. We have to find alternatives. Maybe we have micro public education schools. Those are coming up everywhere. So maybe we don't need the great big facilities. Maybe we can lease a space for these smaller groups of people like charter schools do, or maybe we let them go to charter schools.
Thank you.
Thank you. Molly-Anna.
Repeat the question.
Yes. Some Pasco schools are overcrowded, while others have fewer students and may face closure or consolidation. How do student enrollment, staffing, and class size affect these decisions? And what would guide your approach to planning for the future of the district?
Well, I think it's important that no one panics. I don't think teachers need to fear for job security. I think it's just a matter of being able to pivot. And I think in business, we're used to doing that all the time. If something's not working, look at the BlackBerry, for example. The BlackBerry wasn't working. They didn't want to pivot. The BlackBerry died. So we have to be willing to accept changes in in the logistics of the county and the infrastructure of the county, and in patterns on where people are moving and living. Yes, you can't move students to different locations. I think having micro hubs is a solid idea. We do it in our larger association where we're meeting the needs of 3 counties. And I think studying the reasons and why people are living in certain parts, I think that might be part of it. But just being able to pivot, reuse space, just change the way we think of buildings in general. It's not the traditional model.
Thank you. Erin, you are next.
So I think this is twofold. We need to use data that shows specifically why some areas, if we're looking at a school closure, what is the data supporting that? And then we also need to look at the community needs and the community concerns and what other alternatives we could look at based on those needs. If a school is under enrolled, yet there are families in that community that would really utilize a CTE program that's not there. Could we bring that program to that school? Are there ways that we could use that school to serve the needs of the community that we haven't looked at before? And I think this is part of thinking outside of the box. We hear often either in business or at the school board level, like, well, we haven't done that before. That's just not how we do things. Well, I think gone are the days where we use that phrase, and we need to be creative, think outside of the box, and really listen to the community needs with the data as well, and combine them to come up with the most thoughtful considerations and plans for the long term.
Thank you. Sean.
Working in 4 different school districts, I've seen how different school districts have dealt with this. So the first part of the viewing of the school is obviously the capacity. Is it overcrowded? Is it under enrolled? Look at the age of the facility. Should we invest in this facility, or is it really, really ancient and old? And in Pinellas County, several of the schools, they bundled up and they either sold to private entities, or they went ahead and leased it to different charters. So before we deal with consolidation and closure, because students can be bused to certain areas, elementary is a little bit easier with locations than say middle school and high school, where they start to get a little bit farther. We can also look at the different options that are out there. I believe Aaron just mentioned about CTE as a possible program, a different magnet program. Is there some way that we can pull in? Again, that's where I go back to that principal. Is there some way that they can connect with that community? And if we have the principals that serve 3 or 4 years, they'll never know.
Thank you. All right. Well, we're going to round it out with our final comments. We're going to start with Molly-Anna, and you'll have 1 minute.
Well, again, thank you. I apologize being home and having some of the distractions with cats and internet going out, but thank you all for your patience. Again, at the end of the day, I think it's been mentioned, outside of the box thinking. I do believe I bring that outside of the box thinking to the school board. Building on the good work, as I mentioned before, that's been done, and just looking for ways to improve within the spending, within the budget, making sure that student outcomes are solid, because it really just goes back to making sure that our students who are graduating graduate with a path and a plan, whether that's college, whether that's career. It's very difficult to compete in this world marketplace, especially with our economy. So our students need to be prepared. My youngest student, Jack, my youngest son, Jack, he's 25. He bought his house at 23 years old, and he's a plumber. So that just goes to show you how these are very reputable and skilled trades that I know he feels really good about it. So there are different ways that we can look at what we're doing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Erin.
So I just want to thank you all again for having us, and to the other candidates as well. What do they say? May the odds ever be in your favor. This is a wild, crazy ride we're all on. But I do want to say something that I bring up all the time, and I've mentioned it in many of my answers here, is I'm running on transparency and communication and openness with families. My goal is to be a bridge from the district to the families in our communities, and I think you can see that across every aspect of things that we've talked about. At the end of the day, we want our students to be able to be successful in whatever path they have, and having open communication and transparency with community members, with families, with teachers, with staff at the district, I think is the best path forward. We can all work together towards the same goals, and I think moving forward, being able to communicate that to families as well, that it isn't an us versus them. We're all in this to make our public schools the best that they can be. And so please remember, vote Aaron Street August 18th.
Thank you. Sean, you are up.
Thank you very much for having me today. I just want to reiterate that as a veteran, as a parent of 4, as a teacher within the system, that as a teacher, I do support technology. I didn't want to come across that with my short answer a little bit ago, a few questions ago. I believe that technology should be an enhancement. As I've been campaigning, actually, Hillsborough County has decided to change their policy dealing with screen time, dealing with K through 3rd grade. So this is kind of the same concept that I'm following. And I believe that this whole idea of going back to basics will help with our students with reading and comprehension. I can't stress enough that I'm in the classroom and students are having problems with reading. Just flat out reading. I don't want to make our students stenographers. I want to make them good, able-bodied Americans that can function in the world today. And by going back to basics, hopefully we can improve everything. Thanks very much.
Kirk, you're going to round us out.
Great. Thank you for having us. This is the most time the 4 candidates have gotten to have a conversation with each other and learn from each other. Typically, we're in a room, we're given 1 minute to 3 minutes, we talk, we're kind of stressed what we're going to say. We really don't listen to what each other's saying. This time we had an opportunity to listen to each other. One of the 4 of us will be on the school board. And I know if I'm that choice, I'm going to remember the BlackBerry from Molly-Anna, transparency and communications from Eric. And I love the sign thing from Sean. That took me back to my Southwest Airlines day when we took away peanuts because peanuts didn't contribute to the bottom line. But most importantly, I think we all agree that we are focused on student outcomes, regardless of what path that they decide to move forward. That's why I don't pay attention to graduation rates. I don't pay attention to the A-rated school. I think of the Henry Ford model. What's the quality of each product coming off the line, and will it be successful in whatever they choose to do? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Kirk Phillips, and I'll be proud to serve you.
Thank you. Teresa?
Yeah, I'm going to share real quick. Never want to leave without mentioning once again our dates for voting. We hope to get more than 1 out of 5 voters out for August 18th election. We don't like it when we have 20% turnout for our primary election. We want everybody who's watching this to make sure that you get out, organize a group. If you're doing something during early voting, which is August 8th to the 15th in Pasco County, go all together to an early voting site. On election day, of course, you have to vote in your precinct. But on early voting, everybody can go to one early voting site and vote together, whether you're going from a back to school open house or a family lunch or a church or community event. Please get out on election day. And I always want to mention that the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We never endorse or oppose candidates. We do have an online voter guide at vote411.org. We send questions out to every candidate. We handle the local level locally. We have our state league handle state questions, and our national league handles federal offices. And candidates upload their information directly into vote411.org. We don't touch their answers, so it's a great way for voters to find information on all of the races on your ballot. Amy, any last thoughts?
No, just make sure you share this information with everyone you know, and make sure they know about vote411.org. It's such a great resource, not just for school board, judicial, all of the different races that are out there. And when we have referenda and things like that, they always have a great nonpartisan, if this or that kind of answers. So it's really, really clear. And like I think you guys were saying, very layman's terms. So I really appreciate it to share. So please share it out with everyone. Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank
Yeah.
you.